Hi, I'm Andy Paredes with Line 6. We're here at NAMM 2020 and we're introducing Pod Go. So Pod Go is our latest iteration of Pod. This is our 5th generation overall, and we really wanted to kind of get back to the roots of what Pod was, where it sounded great, it was easy to use, and you could just kind of throw it in your backpack and head out the house for any gig or any rehearsal. So the idea, what we're doing here, you'll notice that Pod has evolved a bit since some of their previous versions, and we have a lot of the cool modern day features like you see on some of our other product lines, like RGB foot switches. So for example, you'll notice things are lighting up in cool colors, just like you would see on HX Stomp or from the Helix family. You will notice the full color screen. The big difference here is that it's really meant to be a standalone rig, whereas HX is meant to go on a pedal board. Helix is meant to be a controller or a bigger system. When you look at this isn't really meant to be connected with other things. It's meant to be kind of its own throw and go rig, which is why you're seeing some more foot switches than you see on some other products. You're also going to notice an expression pedal here, so you'll be able to use volume, wah, or you can assign any effect parameters to it, and you could just do that. But when you take a look on the back here, you're going to notice there's a lot of things that it really is meant for just straight performance on its own. So things like stereo jacks in and out that are TRS. You won't see things like MIDI DIN jacks or VDI or some of the other things you'll see on our other products, because it's really meant to be its own deal. So dealing with the overall sounds and creating presets here is super simple, and we actually did this on purpose because we want people to have a really easy to use situation. So for example, if you look at the screen here, you're going to see everything's the color-coded blocks, the same thing in what you've seen us use with all of our other products going back to 1998. So navigating around is super simple. You're going to have a number of blocks that are prefixed, so things like wah and volume are always going to be on. They're just auto set, so you don't have to worry about assigning those sorts of things. Then you're going to have EQ that's always going to be on. You have to have some sort of EQ, but then we do have flexible blocks as well. So for example, like right now we have a delay. Here we have the compressor, and this is, to me, a kind of a cool thing because you can always choose an amp, and you can always choose a cab, or you can choose an impulse response. So that's going to be an option that you're going to see here that you wouldn't have seen in a previous Pod product. So for example, if I want to take any amp, I can turn the amp on or off just by hitting the button. But if I want to start scrolling through different amps, I can just do this, and it's the same amp model set and the same effect models that you're going to see from the HX family of products. The only difference is we dropped a couple distortions and one delay just because it wouldn't fit. Everything else is going to be everything that you're used to seeing in HX and in Helix. We're planning on shipping this at the end of March, so depending on what region you're in, you may see it in early April to maybe early May, depending on your region. So, Andy Paredes with Line 6 here at NAMM 2020. Thanks for watching.
Hello, everybody. Hey, how's everybody doing? Good, I recognize some familiar faces. Out there. So I'm Paul Hindmarsh, and I'm here today to talk about the new Pod Go. But first of all, I'm going to play a little song, and then we'll get straight to it. you guys listening to Pod Go? Right. Technical glitch there. So in 1998, does anybody remember, anybody have the original Pod? Yeah, pretty much all of it. I remember as a fresh-faced young guy working in a music store, coming back from my lunch break and seeing it in the window of the shop and buying it, purely because it meant that I didn't have to upset my parents, upset my neighbours, and all of a sudden I could record great quality guitar sounds. So that was 22 years ago, and then since then there's been all of these different incarnations of the Pod. I got a lot older and got grey hair and everything, and all of these pods came out. And now we have this one here. So this is Pod Go. So in essence, the most important thing about this is the sound. It's all new models for Pod. It's taken from the HX series of modelers. So that's models like the component modeling that we've heard on a bunch of different products. So let me just find a couple of examples of that. So if we think about component modeling and how detailed that is now, back in those old days, if you used to play softly, it didn't used to respond quite as well, like all the notes used to sound the same. But now, I can take something like a JTM sound, and it's now really dynamic. I can play quieter, turn the volume down, and I'm almost back to a clean sound there. So that's a JTM sound. Line 6 Litigator is another popular amp for us. That's not a litigator. 1 second. And another dynamics amp. Quality, just basic amp sounds there. And then maybe last but not least, the solo head. Yeah, cool, big sounds out of the little box. So that's not just the HX modeling that we've brought over. You'll also see that over the last few years, we've, I wouldn't say invented a few things, but we certainly led the way with a bunch of different things like multicolored foot switches, so that you know at a glance exactly what type of effect is sitting on that foot switch. So even if you're not familiar with Line 6 gear, you've probably heard people like me talk repeatedly that green is delay, blue is modulation. We've been hammering it home now for quite some time. And it works really well. It's a great visual aid on stage, and it's just kind of fun to play with. So Pod Go has multicolored LED foot switches, and you can see in the LCD screen there as well. It's really clear as to what effects are on there as well. You can see the purple there. So we're kind of trying to move away as much as possible with technology from going in deep diving into menus and scrolling across pages and down pages. Let's make it all color coded and let's make it kind of fun to interact with. So one of the other things that we brought over, apart from the colour-coded foot switches and the sort of 5 rotary pots underneath it to avoid the menus, was Snapshots. Now Snapshots is a great way, move through some presets again, it's a great way of having 4 different sounds sitting within one preset. So a lot of the time I'll tend to use the same sort of amp model, but maybe for a solo sound I just want some more delay, I maybe want some top end added to that sound or a bit more drive. I can actually do that with using Snapshots and just sit in one preset all the time. So if I ever want to change the delay setting, it's just one delay setting in that pedal. So let's have a listen to some of the effects using Snapshots. I don't know if you can see my foot clearly, but you can see I'm on Snapshot B most of the time here. And this will just be the dry amp sound. And when I switch to Snapshot A, it's going to add in a whole bunch of extra effects and make it a lot more wet sounding. This is a Who What amp. big type of sounds there. A little thing you heard before, I'm going to take a placator model. Snapshot 1 is going to bring in a grey flanger. So again, component modeled versions of all those kind of classic effects. Something a bit cleaner. I've deliberately put all of the tremolos really, really wide, so if anybody starts to feel sick when I'm... there's a lot of pulsating between speakers, so I'll apologise for that if that's the case. Sounds like an amp, doesn't it? It's a really nice ampy sort of sound. Something clean or something metal?
Metal.
Metal. Let's hope you weren't going to say that. It's not my forte, however. So let's see what I've got. Let's go for drop D. So this is the Ubersonic amp. Again, a great one for playing softly. It's almost clean. Almost. It's a lot cleaner. And I'm going to take that and I'm going to add one of the double track things. So hopefully it should sound like two guitars. It's going to pan my guitar and add a little bit of a delay to a guitar. So hopefully sounds like two sort of big guitars. Do you want more metal or something clean?
Clean.
Clean, yay! So how about, what else have I got in my box of tricks? So this is an AC30 type sound. Big reverb. Switch off a whole bunch of different things and add in a nasty fuzz. And you see the switching between them is seamless because I'm not having to reload a preset. There is no click, there's no space, there's no latency as I go between those. So again, that's something else we've integrated from the rest of the HX modelers. Close enough. Okay, so the interface on pod is really straightforward. You can see we've got the signal path along the top. This is player view. This is where you would go out and you would do gigs. This is how you're going to switch through all of your different presets. Obviously, you can name all your presets and everything as well. That's where you're going to find snapshots. You can also go into edit view for when you're creating all your different presets. Now, in Pod Go, you have 9 different blocks. So 5 of those blocks are already preloaded with go-to effects. You're always going to have an amp model. You're always going to have a cab model. You're always going to have an EQ block. You're always going to have a volume and a wah. So you can change different types of volume. You can change different types of wah. You can change all the different types of amp model, but it's always going to be an amp block. The remaining 4 blocks you can do whatever you want with, along with modulation effects, reverbs, delays. And when you're on that page, that's going to look like that. So on any of those flex blocks, you basically scroll along vertically, horizontally along and then vertically down. So it's really quick and easy to get to all those different sounds that you want to be able to get to. Okay, around the back, it's all pretty straightforward, exactly what you would expect. There is a stereo effects loop on there as well, and that's the returns on that can be configured as an extra auxiliary input. And one of the other nice features that we've added to that is the amp out. So the amp out jack will be exactly the same as the main outputs, but you can switch it to take a tap off just before the cab block. So it means that you can run your amp sound straight into a traditional amplifier that you have on stage, but your front of house is going to be the one with the speaker model. And what I should also say about the speaker modeling is you can actually load impulse responses into here as well. So you can load third-party IRs like from NAMM or any of those great companies that are out there. USB on there as well. So you have 4 channels of USB audio for reamping, obviously, as well as just your normal sort of straight through 1 and 2. And there will be a Podgo edit software as well, which will probably look very similar to the way Helix native looks at the moment. So that is Podgo. I think I'll play one more song using Snapshots. And thank you very much. And I'll see you in the next 3 minutes. Or longer, however long it takes us to find the preset. I should also say we've actually added the legacy effects into there as well. So I always was a big fan of the M series effects, the auto filter on there. So it's great to be able to get back to that and use that again. Thank you. If anybody has any, thanks. If anybody has any questions, feel free to come up to me and ask us. And are you the guys as well? Okay, cheers.